I try to think what word can I use when people ask me like, what does it feel to win the Derby? And I don't know if I'm gonna be able actually to find the right word that can describe this feeling that I have in this right now. Yeah, he broke good, and I'll have to say probably the third or fourth jump after the break. The horse next to me on the outside kind of came right in front of me, and I clip heels a little bit right there. So I'm like thinking like, oh boy, I hope he didn't lose the shoes in this track like this. But then have to kind of like just keep going and trying to save ground, trying to see my way. How could I get to save ground a little bit the first turn? And I think everything was just falling right into place for me. I got to save ground the first turn, and when we turned the backside, he was still, traveling very beautifully until, I would say we hit the 5 pole, and then that's when he kind of was saying to me, like, listen, I'm ready. So, from there I started picking it up. I didn't want to get too excited. And, right when we turned from home and I put him in the clear on the outside, I knew what he got. I knew what he's capable of. And once, we hit the 8 pole, like, I knew, like there is impossible way somebody's going to be coming and beat me, because he was still, running pretty hard at that point. And like I said, I always trust him. I knew what he was capable of. And like I said, it was just a great effort today. He didn't disappoint me. Still sinking in, to be honest. It mean the world to me, for me and for my family, coming from my country where, the only race that we were able to watch back there was just the Kentucky Derby. It was the only race from USA we were able to watch. And that little, start getting in my head. And I said, like, well, that would be nice, be the United States right in the Kentucky Derby. Then, little by little, I think, I started, point that out to make it come true, and I think today we just did that. Well, I was first, he got into a beautiful rhythm, so, and I knew I got Sandman like right behind on the outside, so I was like, before I make any move, I got to make sure, he don't get the jump on me. At the same time, I got to make sure too that he doesn't try to keep me boxed, so I'm, just trying to act like I was in a hurry. Then all of a sudden, I get to see where journalism was, and I let my horse kind of move a little bit forward, and then I could feel how Jose Ortiz started picking it up and tried to go with me, and after that, I think like every move I was making, I was just that horse was just there for me every single time, and like I said, I wouldn't be able to done that with a horse that I have to say I make probably between 6 to 7, 8 little move that he was there for me in each time. All along, I knew this was the right horse for me to win the Derby. And I always say, well, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. But at the same time, like I said, like I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get another horse like this if I don't get back on time. But once again, I got the call the next day when I get out of the hospital. Mr. Mo said, listen, you do what you need to do, and you'll get to ride all the horses back. Just I think that gave me a hell of a peace of mind, and to do what I needed to do the right way to recover properly, and I just did that. I have to say I have a lot of faith in God, and I just keep every day since I got the injury. I just keep telling God, just please heal me, and if it's meant to be, I know you're gonna put me right back in action before the Derby. And once again, like I say, when Mr. Mott called me the day after I got out of the hospital, it gave me a big peace of mind. That you don't get that in the business often. It's because this is the nature of the business. Somebody will get to ride the horse, you ride him good, and you get to keep him because the guy did a good job. How you get him off? You know what I mean? So I understand that too. But once again, like I say, just having the peace of mind and being able to do what I needed to do, it just, it's something that I always, and will appreciate from Mr. Mott. I try to think what word can I use when people ask me, like, what does it feel to win the Derby? And I don't know if I'm going to be able actually to find the right word that can describe this feeling that I have in this right now.